Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart as well as Bitcoin price action. So let's start off with fear and greed. And crypto is up into greed. We were down in neutral and fear not too long ago, but Bitcoin has had a pretty strong move recently since early mid-October. And so overall, you can see, actually, let's go back to that there. You can see how we've gone sideways here in the low 70s. And to me, that's interesting just because as far as how I look at regular price charts in terms of lower highs or lower lows, you can see here we've had higher lows, but no higher high yet. And that's just curious to me because is it possible that Bitcoin stalls out here, that we have a little bit of a pullback until we truly blast off? I don't know. We'll see. We'll take a look at the data today. And as far as Bitcoin dominance, for any of you who believe that there is some sort of a cyclical pattern for Bitcoin, Bitcoin dominance is important to pay attention to because if you are in any altcoins, any Bitcoin miners, that at the end of those cycles when there is alt season and the flow of money goes from moving into Bitcoin to moving out of Bitcoin and into your altcoins or mining stocks, that tends to be a great time to be in crypto. At least it has the last two cycles. So just something to pay attention to. We'll take a closer look at that. And as far as the alt season index, we are getting a higher high here. So since this trend bottomed really around October of 23, you can see higher lows and recently a higher high. We have not had one of these alt season spikes yet this cycle. Now, we have had some altcoins such as Solana, Chainlink, Fetch, meme coins I'm sure you've heard about going 10x for a moment in time when Bitcoin topped around March. But really, the alts haven't had their runs yet. And alt season, the true alt season wasn't here, even though it showed altcoin year in 3 different phases. If you go back and look at many altcoins, you'll see there was an initial pump where some of the altcoins went 5, maybe 10x. And I'm sure some people at the time thought, maybe I missed the bull run. However, Bitcoin dominance, like we just talked about, hadn't tanked yet, and true alt season did happen here. Now, last time, and we'll take a look at this in the rainbow chart, there were some alts that did not run until later in the cycle. You might remember Bitcoin had the double top. So do know that if you are getting into altcoins, that most of them will run a little bit before alt season, during alt season, which has lasted on average a month, and some might even run after. So I'm not saying that when Bitcoin dominance tanks to pull all your profits or all your money out of the market, but if there's certain alts you had that haven't run yet, that sometimes waiting it out can produce benefits. So going into the Bitcoin rainbow chart, we have talked about how there has been patterns within this Bitcoin rainbow chart. And before I go any further, I'm going to keep emphasizing this, guys, that while so many crypto YouTubers, and sometimes myself, I'll admit it, and crypto people on X are obsessed with talking about predictions, I am just showing you prior data and letting you make an informed decision off that data. But guys, predictions and being right about predictions does not matter as much as making money. So make sure you have a plan now, that you know your strategy, that you can stick to it. So as a market psychologist, you are making good decisions when there is fear or greed in the market, that you are looking for many opportunities when alt season isn't here yet, when there's higher fear, and that maybe you're looking to take some profits when we are in extreme greed, when alt season is here. So do make sure you have a plan now. Obviously, nothing I say here is financial advice, but you want a plan right now because when alt season's here, that's when retail is going to come flooding in. That's when random friends, family, people that you barely talk to are all of a sudden talking about getting into crypto. They get in. The last 2 cycles, this has happened both times. Those people get in the last month or two, and then they are holding bags for a long time. So going over to the rainbow chart, we talked about this double top. Alt season and Bitcoin dominance Bitcoin dominance tanked here, and this is truly alt season. Now, there were some alts that topped here, and I'll show you on the Bitcoin dominance chart what that looks like. So are we going to get a double top, a singular top? I guess you can say that outside of 2017's run, or at least in this cycle, if you're looking, there's one of two ways to look at it. There's been a double or a couple tops every cycle between the halvings, okay? So you can see here, double top, between the halvings, two different tops, between the halvings, two different tops. Now this one was lower. These were higher highs, lower high. Between the halvings, two tops. This one was a double top, slightly higher high. And yes, we did make a new all-time high right before the halving. So might you say triple top? I don't know. But it's just something to kind of be aware of that, what's going to happen this time? Are we going to have a double top? I don't know. But as far as what I'm looking for, is, as far as these cycles are concerned, is because I'm into altcoins, I'm watching Bitcoin dominance, and I'm watching for when we are up in these orange zones. And we've talked about how there's patterns here that in the halvings, and I was talking about this when I started the channel. For any of you here since the early days, we talked about how each of the halvings that we've gone up one of these color zones, okay? From blue to teal, or I guess hazel, and then teal, and then into green. We did get down in the green at the halving. So I guess you could argue, if this rainbow chart were to hold true, that we'd be in the yellow next halving, somewhere around 200,000. Maybe, we'll see. I would caution you on that, just because going from our previous rainbow chart, this is what we used to use, that this was invalidated. This did get a little lower than people expected. So do keep that in mind. I want to reference that a couple times, by the way. But the other part of this is we've gone down in these zones too. So here you can see we got above max bubble territory, lower end. Here it was max bubble territory, the red. Here, well, I guess you could say dark red, okay. Here we were in the red area, reddish orange, lower end. So this time I'm looking somewhere in the orange. And as far as when that might be, some people are saying, 4-year cycle. And I think that last time it sort of altered. In my opinion, I'm leaning this way, that I believe last cycle maybe altered the 4-year cycle because all the stimulus money inflows, record low rates, that maybe we get a 4-year cycle from April this time. And if we are taking a look at April next year and that orange box, you can see that orange box. So those are still great prices. 158,000, again, the third one down, to 200,000. I'll tell you guys right now, the Fibonacci extensions, that's between the 2618 and the 3618. Let me zoom out here, show this for you guys. So here is our Fibonacci retracement. Okay, here's your Fib tool. If you want to take a look at price action between, you draw from the high to the low. You can draw from the low to the high too. Trace the pullbacks and the strength, or look for areas to buy based off those pullbacks. But if you want to look at price targets, this is one way to look for targets. You take your Fib off log on the macro scale. And I was telling you guys, the 2618, sorry, I may have misspoken. I may have said between the 1 and the 2618, but you'll see that that orange box is between the 2 and the 3618, 155K to 210K. Again, let's go over to the rainbow chart, 4-year cycle. From April, we're looking at the orange box, 155K to 200K. You can see it right there. That lines up between the 2618 and the 3618. Now, I am hesitant on saying that's going to be the top, and the reason why is each time there has been diminished returns. There has been weakness, or further weakness, less volatility in the markets. And I'm not saying you can't make a lot of money, but if we go from this top to the low, you see right here, the very top for Bitcoin was about, well, we got to scroll over here, was between the 3618 and the 4236. Okay, so would that mean that next time around, I said there's weakness, that we get in this area? Maybe, but I'm leaning more towards the 1618 to 2618. And the reason being is if we go back even further, and we draw these fibs, we're not just losing weakness by one zone, we're losing weakness by multiple zones. I believe this is at somewhere around the 7618, something ridiculous. I typed it in a while ago. We're not going to go through that right now. And we can go to the area before. But each cycle we go further, we fall lower within the levels of the Fibonacci retracement targets. So what that means overall is as we're losing weakness or losing overall strength from the bottoms to the tops with our fib targets, that maybe we're not just going to go down by a little bit. Remember last time, 2021, the top was in this area, the 3618, the 4236, that I'm not leaning for us just going down one zone. We've gone down multiple zones from the prior cycles before. I'm leaning more towards somewhere in here. Now, the market cap around the 2618 and 155K for Bitcoin would be around 3 trillion. At the 1618, well, you can see we're at 70K right now. That would be maybe closer to 2 trillion, somewhere around there. And guys, from the 2 trillion to 3 trillion mark, that really lines up with many of our top stocks in the world. Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, they're all over 3 trillion, 3 to 3.5. But our Amazons, Googles, I think Meta's kind of close to where Bitcoin is. Let's take a look at this. This market cap, you can see that first. Here we go, Google, 2 trillion. Meta, it's loaded up here, 1.5 trillion, okay? So that's around where Bitcoin is right now. At the cycle top, I would not be surprised to see this get to 2 to 3 trillion. That's sort of my base case, and that's why I'm really looking for that 155K level, maybe just up to it, maybe a little bit over it, we'll see. But if we go to the former rainbow chart and just, again, look by these patterns here, way above the max bubble territory, the red zone here, it's in the red zone, okay? And here it only got down to the orange zone, barely. So you could say it went from 1, 2, 3 color bands down to where this one was, and this one went about 3 color bands down to where this is. Well, what's 3 color bands down from the orange zone? 1, 2, 3, the still cheap zone. So if we have, let's go to the still cheap zone, and let's go out to April of next year. Here we go. Look at that. April of next year, and even March, to prove my point. Okay, March and April show around 155. Woo, I went up a zone. 155 to 160K. Am I doing this right? Okay, that says at the end of March. So around 160K. Again, this 2618 number keeps coming up. I think that is my max target for where Bitcoin is. But let's talk about the other 4-year cycle. What if we're looking at, let's throw out all the technical analysis. Every cycle is pretty much topped in November. When's this one top? This one topped in June, so that one doesn't really count. Where did this one top? So that was topping in April back then. Just curious about these first ones. Okay, look at this. This top was in December, this one in June. This top was in April, this one in November. Okay, so it seems like early summer or late spring, and then Q4. This one Q4, December. Here, April, and Q4, November. The top was in November, I know that. So we had a top in the springtime already, this time around. Are we going to get the true top this next spring or in somewhere around November? Okay, and if we're taking a look at that orange zone again, that would be 190 to 240K, which would again put us between the same strength of move that got us up here. Now, as you can see, part of the reason we take a look at the rainbow chart every week, the reason we talk about it, is because so far we've had this pattern. Now, patterns do not have to continue happening the way they do. So if I'm making the case right here and doing somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy, we talked about this a little bit on the live stream last Friday, that sometimes you repeat the same information so much that you expect it to happen. And that's not being a smart investor, having that self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why playing the prediction game will get you into trouble. Okay, so am I playing a self-fulfilling prophecy so much? I have to analyze my bias as a psychologist, a market psychologist, saying, you know what, each time we hit lower fib extensions, so this time we have to hit lower, and this is why I'm picking this. Okay, if I all of a sudden get stuck in that self-fulfilling prophecy, then I know well and possible that I put myself at risk of if Bitcoin goes higher. So what's a way I can balance that risk? Well, we talked about Bitcoin dominance and how Bitcoin dominance has had bottoms here around the 40%. Now, you could say the bottoms here around 40%. You can draw this ascending trend line and say, well, no matter what, each line is in the low 40s, whether it's 42, 40, whatever. But if Bitcoin dominance hasn't bottomed yet and we are at 150K, then I will start believing with that data that, you know what, maybe we are going to go higher. Maybe that self-fulfilling prophecy that is saying that 155K is probably the top isn't going to be true, and we are going to hit the same strength of a move as last time. I have to be willing to be ready for that and have indicators and data to show me in case I'm wrong. And again, guys, you have to be okay being wrong. No one gives a crap if you're right or wrong, especially you guys with your money. You care the most on whether you're making or losing money. So we want to just have these macro conditions in the back of our mind so we can make informed decisions, paying attention to fear and greed, paying attention to things like election year cycle. We've talked about this, how this is October to November, that there's typically somewhat of a pullbacks going into election and that there's typically higher volatility going into election. We just had all the rate cut stuff going on, that rate cuts affect the market in different ways. This is post-rate cut cycles, whether we're staying in this dark green and light green. We have to be able to acknowledge the data when we see it to be able to adjust the way we feel about the market. So we talk about this macro perspective just to make sure that we are still making good decisions on whether we're buying and selling. So right now, we're in these lower zones. So myself personally, I am in overall buy mode. If any of my altcoins or mining stocks hit good levels that I like or good areas, then I feel more comfortable buying. If we're up in the yellow zones or higher, I am looking for areas to take profits. Or if any of my altcoins have hit price targets. Some of you guys, you might be so greedy, you don't have a price target. You're going to say, you know what, hell with that. I'm going to wait for alt season. And when Bitcoin dominance tanks, whatever it's going to be, that's when I'm going to sell. I caution you against that because not every altcoin tops perfectly with Bitcoin dominance tanking. Let me repeat that again with the chart. Not every altcoin and mining stock tops right here. Some top earlier, some top later. Where's November? Right here. Some were topping here. Some were topping here. So have your price targets now. I showed you how you can find that with the Fibonacci extensions, or even just having a certain number, a certain multiple. And that way, when extreme greed's in the market, you know that you are comfortable taking profits at whatever price it is. So let's just go over to Ethereum, most common altcoin there is, okay? Let's zoom in here. Maybe you've been dollar cost averaging in on these lower moving averages, this lower area of the trend line, these lower fibs, whatever. And your strategy is, you know what, Mr. Market Psychologist, I will take 25% of profits when we revisit the all-time high, 25% of profits, or 50% when we get to the 1618, and 25% when we get to the 2618. That is your plan, okay? That way, you have to stick to it. Now, it's possible that it never gets above the 1618. Have a subset of your plan to be ready for that just in case. So if you're looking to withdraw 25 and 50%, what are you going to do with the last 25%? Are you going to wait out for this to happen? Or at what point, maybe it's the 786, do you just take your profits and go in case that doesn't happen? Inversely, have a plan on, if you're thinking, again, 25, 50, 25%, what are you going to do in case it goes higher? You might just say, you know what, screw it. I have my price target. The hell with Ethereum. It could go higher for all I care. Or I don't care if it goes higher. I have my price targets. That's all I need. I'm good with it. It can go 10x past that. I don't give a crap. Those are my price targets. And guys, I'm speaking with emotion because now is the time you need to make a plan and to stick with your plan, because so many people, I know so many good, hardworking people, friends and family, who only talk to me about Bitcoin, only express interest. They knew I had interest in crypto. They only express their interest at the end of the alt season or the cycles. And I caution these people. I said, guys, it's not the best time to get in. Some of them didn't listen. And some of them that didn't listen, well, actually all of them as far as I know, are still holding on to when they bought Bitcoin at 60K. They're like, you know what, I barely made a profit on that. You know, this sucks. They were holding a bag for 4 years. Or they bought some other altcoin, whatever it was. They're holding on to that because they only bought when the commercials came out and when the retail flooded in. So do have a plan now and know what you're going to do. Again, as a market psychologist, we need to think with our frontal lobe. It is the last area of your brain to develop. The front of your brain is what helps you think clearly, process, focus, make reasonable choices. The part of your brain doesn't finish developing until you're like 25, 26. And yes, you can still learn new things. You can learn about neuroscience, gray matter, all that stuff. But one of the first parts of your brain that really develop, even before you're born, is your limbic system, your emotional part of your brain. So it's easy for us to make emotional decisions. And when there is greed and FOMO in the market, it's easy for our emotions to get attached to that. And I'm encouraging you guys right now, so you can be smart, to use emotions as an indicator and to have a plan. So you use your frontal lobe, your thinking brain, your reasonable part of your brain, to get past all the emotion, to know that no matter what, you are making a good informed decision. And I don't know if Ethereum's going to the 3618 at 15K or the 2618, somewhere between there. I don't know where it's going, but you have to have your own plan and make it right now. And you need to make it right now because I showed you guys that Bitcoin has, we talked about this last week, especially in the live stream, that it is broken out of, so far, it could turn into a fake out, be ready for that. It is broken out of this descending channel. If we go to the daily, you'll find something interesting. Okay, descending channel, lower highs, lower lows until here, and then we had higher lows. Okay, a higher high. And now here, have we made a higher high from here? Not yet. We had 10 green days up on the Heikin-Ashi candles, and what do we have here? A big fat doji. Now dojis, you know what they mean? Undecided. So this could just be undecided and we shoot up higher. Or, you guys can see here yourself, we have this important trend line. It goes parallel with the trend line Bitcoin's been obsessed with since the bottom. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit more. Since the bottom, Bitcoin's been obsessed with that trend line. And now it's gone down to slightly lower strength on this parallel trend line. Okay, this gray line was the all-time high from 2021. So we're running into some resistance there again. Again, after 10 days, green, it's typical to see some pullback action. And it can come down to any of these levels. I'm fine with that. Now, if it gets to the 200-day moving average or below, then I'll be worried. At the 200-day, I'll say be cautious. And if it starts working its way below and getting underneath the 200-day and 59K roughly, then we're probably going down somewhere. Here, let me take this off log. So we have our targets on. Okay, we're probably going down somewhere around these targets of 53 or 50K. Okay, you have this ascending trend line. It could run into that too. Let's just draw that out a little bit. So 200 moving average, ascending trend line, probably the last area of defense, all within here. Okay, between 59 and 61K. Roughly speaking, that's the area that you want to hold and not go below. Now, you might be a value-minded person, be like, I don't care when the top is. I believe in crypto. The top can be 3 years from now. I don't care. Well, then if it does get below, then you can be ready to buy at greater discounts. Again, removing the emotion, having a plan. Ask yourself, what is your buy plan? What if Bitcoin comes down here? Are you going to be buying altcoins, Bitcoin, whatever it is? Because that's the best time to buy, right? You want to buy bottoms, sell tops? Easier said than done, because we are emotional creatures and our emotions often work against us. So again, on this channel, I'm telling you guys, someone who's worked 10 years within the field of psychology, you want to use emotions as an indicator to your advantage. You want to use your frontal lobe to make your plans and enact those plans. You start doing that, you will notice better results overall. Now, a couple other things I wanted to take a look at with you guys real quick is just some different indicators. I was playing around with different indicators and seeing, you know what, we're at this point. What are some of our indicators telling us? And there's a couple I wanted to look at with you. I think this was one, Hull Suite. This was an interesting one I looked at. Yes, it's called the Hull Suite by Insilico. Okay. Now this one, what do you notice? That when it turns green, good time to buy. Now when it gets under the green band, okay, it can stall out, turn red. When it gets above the red, it'll turn green. Good time to buy. When it gets under the band, turns red, gets bearish. What do you notice? It's getting above the red. You could say that looks bullish. Now, whether or not it's just going to be some sideways action or we're truly pumping, I don't know. Let's go over to 2019. Take a look at this. When it got above the red, you can see it got back down below it. So is something like that going to happen? It's possible, guys, and I'll say that the Fed, when they first started cutting rates right here, they did not stop cutting rates until here. Rates bottomed at this area, and then we went up. So it is possible that we are not going to see Bitcoin and the market truly melt up. That's been the buzzword lately, in case you're watching any of the talking heads that tried to, or the psyops, I'll say, on CNBC. Melt up's the popular word. Everyone's mega bullish. You want to be careful of that greed. But if you're comparing the last cycle, something to keep in your back of your mind is that we truly did not go mega bullish until rate cuts paused. Now, it's possible, whether that happens or not. Another way you can look at it is, even after they cut rates, this whole range in here, let me draw this out. This whole range was still a good area to buy. Even while they were cutting rates, even while we were bearish, buying anywhere in here was better than buying here when retail was. I'll give you that. And that's one way you can think about it. Again, here is where you don't want to be buying. Okay, so even if you've been, I know some of you guys have been buying since March. If this is anything like some of those other cycles, and again, going over the rainbow chart, the cycles, there's nothing to say that we are truly up at these tops yet. Some people are saying, oh, the top's already in. I disagree. And one of the main reasons for that, Bitcoin dominance. Okay, Bitcoin dominance hasn't tanked. It's still going up. And my target base case was 57, 58%, and as high as 62%. Based off prior data, I've talked about that before. I don't want to get too much more into it. But we're in that zone where any time Bitcoin dominance could start going down and altcoins could start blasting off. Okay, we might have a little bit of a pullback and more altcoin money bleeds out into Bitcoin and dominance goes up somewhere around 62%. That might happen. Okay, but again, overall, still not the worst time to buy. And you could say this indicator is bullish. That, hey, we're just crossing above. But again, remember I showed you the 2019 one, and it got back below until rate cuts stopped. Darvis box, this was another one I was looking at. I was just going through different indicators of mine. And this one, you can see that typically when it hits the upper end of the box, there can be rejection or the lower end, good times to buy. It's hit the upper end of the box. Okay? Again, this box, as you can see, it changes shapes. There's no reason it can't blast up out of the box. But when it does, typically it gets back into the box. Or if it gets below, really good times to buy when it's below the box. Okay, it gets back into it. That's a good way of reading the box. Lower end of the box, underneath, good value times to buy. Now, would I buy purely off that? No, but that's just one way to look at it. Sorry about all the colors. It looks like a bag of Skittles took a dump all over the screen here. Let's get rid of that. Okay. There was another indicator I was looking at. Oh, RSI. One of the simple ones. What do we got for the RSI, guys? Well, on the daily, oh no, it went away. They took away my trend lines. It's okay, we'll draw it again. On the daily, what do you notice? RSI strength is at the base, been going up. Okay? Now here, this is known as bullish divergence. When the price goes down, basis strength goes up, bullish divergence. Price down, basis strength up, we went up. The strength is going up, the price is up. That's looking bullish. Price is going up, strength is going up. That's bullish. Okay? Now, just recently, at least minorly, again, this move isn't completely done. Just a tiny bit of strength going downwards and price going up. So, is this bearish divergence? Technically, yes. But based off the strength, it might not be as bad of bearish divergence as it's looking like. I would be wanting, or if I was looking for bearish divergence, I'd be wanting the next peak to be a bit lower, so we're seeing something more clear. You know, if we're going by, instead of that last point, if we're going by this point, that we're seeing something more like this, okay? Something on a clear angle down, and then the next price might be up. So if we have one, you know, a little pullback, next price is clearly up, back to this trend line, but we get more of a strength down here, okay? Then don't be surprised seeing another pullback into this area. And that might happen, guys. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. No one does. But we might get back to the all-time high area and then get back down into here and everyone's freaking out saying it's over. All that stuff all over again. Again, your plan is more important than anyone being right or wrong. Predictions don't freaking matter. So I just want to take a look at those indicators every week. Even though we're talking about the rainbow chart, the cycle, I want to throw different stuff at you guys to consider. Bullish narratives, bearish narratives. Again, I would say my advice would be don't get stuck in any of those tribal camps, bullish or bearish. Have a plan on what to do when the market's bearish, when the market's bullish. Instead of being bullish or bearish, be someone who makes money. That matters the most. Okay, so you know what to do when the prices get lower, and you know what to do when the prices get higher. That's what matters more than anything. Okay, and macro-wise, we talk about this because just in the back of your head, we want to know, is it okay? Is now a better value time to buy or not? Overall, yes. Now we do have, again, diminished returns. You've seen this. Lower areas of strength. Okay, maybe we only get up into, again, the still cheap zone. But guys, we haven't even gotten there yet. Okay, still cheap zone. What's it going to be? Are we going to get to 155K, 4-year cycle? Did I go out to the November, December? 200K? Maybe. Maybe we get up to that 150 to 200K. I would love that. But again, based off the diminished returns, not just of the rainbow chart, but also the fib extensions, I have a plan ready in case we only hit those lower fib extensions. Do you? Do you have a plan on what to do if the market doesn't do what you think it's going to do? You need to be able to answer that question right now. All you guys watching and listening to this. If you're thinking 4-year cycle in November, okay, what's your plan if that doesn't happen? If you're thinking 4-year cycle in April, what's your plan if it doesn't happen? What data do you need to see in order to adjust your plan? How are you going to adjust your plan? How and what you do and what indicators you base those decisions off of matter more than just blindly putting your money in because some influencer said this or that online, okay? By the way, you shouldn't base your decision based off anything I say or anyone on Twitter. God, no. Make your own plan. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. A little bit longer video today, but I think I wanted to talk about this stuff because as we're getting near that time, possibly where we might start going up, this is really one of the last chances we have, those of you guys watching, to make good frontal lobe informed decisions, not get caught up in the emotion. When we are at the top, you're going to see people in the comments saying ridiculous stuff. And when the top is in, when I believe it's in, and I'm saying that, you're going to see a lot of people saying nasty things to me. And that's okay. But we want to be ready for that so we know what to do when everyone's being emotional. And when people don't want to hear things they don't like. If people are buying in at the top, like they were back here, imagine buying in up here and then seeing someone on YouTube say, you know what, the top's in, market's done, all season's over. You would not be happy to hear that. And that's what's going to happen. So be ready to enact your plan when retail's coming in and when they're going to be pissed off on my channel in the comments saying, what? This is going up way higher than you're saying. That's okay. Let them be mad. Again, emotions do not serve us well as we make financial decisions. Thank you guys for watching. I'll do a video sometime, probably maybe tomorrow, on Bitcoin mining stocks. And there won't be a live stream Friday. Got some plans, but maybe I'll do another video on some Coinbase coins or in the stock market. I talk about macro stock market conditions, Mag 7 stocks too. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.